Thank you all for coming, first of all. You're here to hear me present about my honors project, which I chose to do on the use of yoga therapy to alleviate health problems. And before talking about the health problems, I would like to talk a little bit about yoga and how it can help. Yoga is a system of physical as well as mental exercises that combine in an effort to achieve overall wellness. It connects body and mind in harmony through the practice of asanas, pranayama, and dhyana. There are over 100 types of yoga, and different types of yoga focus on different things. There's karma yoga, which focuses on your actions, nutrition yoga, there's hatha yoga that focuses on asanas. The list is endless. Yoga is not a religion, but it can complement it due to its spiritual nature. And yogic techniques are designed to help restore and or improve health in the overall function of both the body and the mind. Yoga has been put to the test by Western medicine to see just how worthy these yogic tools really are. And there are several studies that show that yoga does have a positive effect on our health. For my research, I focused on the benefits of yoga therapy for people who suffer from stress, asthma, insomnia, heart disease, obesity, and depression. The International Association of Yoga Therapists defines the yoga therapy as the process of empowering individuals to progress toward improved health and well-being through the application and the philosophy and practice of yoga. So with that definition in mind, I would like to tell you a little bit about how yoga can benefit people that have certain health conditions. The first that I'm going to talk about is stress. Dictionaries define stress as a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or demanding circumstances. Stress is a natural physical and psychological response to a perceived threat which activates the sympathetic nervous system. Once the threat has passed, the healthy response of the body is to allow the parasympathetic nervous system to restore calm. The activation of the sympathetic nervous system has been termed the fight or flight response, which I'm sure you've all heard before. And it is characterized by the release of the hormones adrenaline and cortisol, causing blood vessels to constrict, elevating blood pressure and pulse, and provoking rapid breathing. However, when stress is continuously present throughout one's daily life, it keeps the body in a constant state of alert, and it can cause severe health problems. High cortisol levels have been linked to increased blood sugar, high systolic and diastolic blood pressure, high triglyceride levels, and as well as insulin resistance. And it appears to be immediately involved with stress-related eating. The Mayo Clinic says that in order to manage our stress, we must first be able to identify its symptoms and its triggers. And the way that we do this is by observing ourselves and checking for the possible effects that stress can have on our bodies so that we can identify the root of it. Come in, Morgan. Sorry. You haven't missed much. It's okay. So this is a little chart that I put together to help identify the common effects of stress on the body, the mind, and behavior. And doing yoga is an excellent way to manage stress because the practice of it can be personalized to fit one's needs. Each individual can find what works for him or her within the 100 different types of yoga. So stress in yoga. Yoga is often recommended to manage stress because it encompasses several stress management techniques, and it promotes an overall healthier lifestyle. The meditation portion of yoga, or dhyana, allows individuals to focus on the moment and reframe situations in a more positive, less stressful way. Dr. Timothy McCall, who is the author of Yoga as Medicine, suggests that stress is fueled by thoughts and that yoga contains the tools to teach people how to turn their mind into an ally rather than the source of the problem. To reduce stress and get into the right frame of mind, Dr. McCall recommends a series of experiential exercises. The first would be guided relaxation. A second is meditation on the breath, because paying attention to one's breath forces the mind to focus on the present. And yogis believe that learning to control the fluctuations of the breath can help calm the fluctuations of the mind, because slow, deep breaths lead to relaxation of the nervous system, and they calm the mind. A third exercise would be palming. And there are also a series of asanas designed to calm the mind and reduce stress that are collectively referred to as restorative yoga. This includes supported savasana, viparita karani, which I have in a picture there for you, and a short sequence of 7 supported asanas is also recommended. The main goal of restorative yoga is to maintain the calmness achieved in one pose as you transition on to the next. The second condition that I chose to look into was asthma. Asthma is a respiratory disorder in which the bronchial tubes become constricted, swollen, and blocked by extra mucus produced in the airways, making breathing difficult. The exact cause of asthma is unclear, but it has been linked to genetic and environmental factors as well as allergies. This condition can trigger coughing, wheezing, chest pains, and shortness of breath. It cannot be cured, but its symptoms can be controlled. It is common among asthmatics to have bad or inefficient breathing habits, which I list right there. And the most common those are the most common ones at least. And if you need me to explain any of them, please ask. Yoga can help correct some of these breathing habits.
What's reverse breathing?
Reverse breathing is when the diaphragm does the opposite of what it's supposed to do. It rises with the inhalation and falls with the exhalation. It's supposed to go the other way around. When you inhale, your stomach is supposed to blow, and your diaphragm is supposed to expand and then go back in when you exhale. And there's people who do it opposite, and it's
Really?
that breathing habit, yeah.
Just
While I was researching this, I noticed that I myself was guilty of some of these bad breathing habits. I've since worked on correcting them.
Breathing.
Yes. So, asthma and yoga. According to the Mayo Clinic, when looking to control asthmatic symptoms, doctors will likely recommend regular exercise, breathing techniques, and relaxation techniques like meditation, all of which are components of yoga. It's the 3, asana, pranayama, and dhyana. Yoga asanas are a really good alternative form of exercise because they don't require strenuous effort. Plus there are certain poses that promote better breathing habits by allowing gravity to assist the diaphragm. Savasana, for example, is the easiest pose for diaphragmatic breathing. This deep relaxation pose not only reduces stress, it allows your diaphragm to do its job with minimal effort. There are also a number of breathing techniques that promote effective breathing. One of the most renowned and recommended ones is the Buteyko breathing technique. This method of controlled breathing first attracted attention in Australia, where studies indicated that such breathing exercises decreased airway hyperresponsiveness in asthmatic subjects. Yoga, however, offers a variety of techniques, and it's just a matter of choosing the one that's right for each individual. Keeping in mind that bringing awareness to the breath is a key element in using these techniques successfully. Another recommendation is meditation, or dhyana. An article published by Pulse magazine on May 2012 stated that a U.S. trial had shown that meditation or mindfulness reduced stress and led to improvements in quality of life that paralleled those seen in patients that used inhalers. Dhyana, again, comes in many forms. It can be a guided meditation, it can be candle gazing. Some techniques require total calm and silence, while others engage all of your senses, but they all have the same purpose, and it's to focus one's awareness on the present moment and letting go of stressors that may be causing bad breathing habits. It is believed that deep physical and mental relaxation manifests itself in physiological changes that are better to our overall health. The next condition is insomnia, which I suffer from, unfortunately. It's a disorder in which people find it difficult to fall or stay asleep. There are over 100 sleep-wake disorders, and insomnia is the most common one. And the National Sleep Foundation reported that about 20% of Americans suffer from insomnia. It can be a symptom or a side effect of another condition, such as asthma. And when it's a side effect, it's known as secondary insomnia. When it's primary insomnia, on the other hand, it can be a chronic problem that results from long-lasting stress. And while many adults experience secondary insomnia at one point or another, there are a few people that do suffer from primary or chronic insomnia. And this lack of sleep can have severe effects on cognitive functions. Insomnia symptoms are more than just plain fatigue and sleepiness. Some of its other symptoms can be headaches, irritability, anxiety, depression, difficulty focusing, and so on. When somebody suffers from insomnia, it may take them over a half hour to fall asleep, and they may get fewer than 6 hours worth of sleep. This unrest is caused by arousal of the sympathetic nervous system. Insomniacs are in a perpetual flight or fight mode. And this, as previously mentioned, is a state of stress that creates enormous tension and makes it very difficult for individuals to rest while they're asleep. There are a number of measures that can be taken to prevent or cure insomnia, and such measures include keeping to a regular schedule, avoiding being in bed for anything other than sleep or sex, finding ways to relax, exercising, avoiding large meals before bed, and avoiding stimulants like caffeine or nicotine. Most forms of exercise will promote better sleep. So why choose yoga? Because muscle tension affects the ability to sleep and the quality of rest you get when you are asleep. And yoga is one of the few forms of exercises that effectively works on reducing muscle tension. Furthermore, there are a number of yoga practices that can help tip the scales from the energetic sympathetic nervous system to the soothing parasympathetic nervous system. Another benefit, for example, comes from the elevated levels of carbon dioxide, which is a natural sedative, and its levels are increased by yoga's deep breathing techniques. Regular practice of pranayama can thus prove to be very effective weapon against insomnia. Yoga also increases the levels of melatonin in the body, and melatonin is a hormone that helps promote sleep. It's the one responsible for regulating a person's internal clock, so to speak. Some of the yoga poses that have proven most effective to induce sleep are forward bends. I'm so sorry, I lost my place. And they stimulate a relaxation response that quiets the mind and calms the nervous system. Inversion poses are also a great way to prepare for sleep. They're most effective when they're performed right before bed, about half hour or so. And also meditating in savasana, which is the pose that was in a previous slide, the corpse pose laying down, which is usually not recommended because people that meditate in savasana tend to fall asleep. But since the goal here is to sleep, that's perfectly fine. You can meditate and fall to sleep, no problem. Then we have heart disease, which is an umbrella term used to describe a range of conditions that affect the heart, like the ones listed up on the slide. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death for both men and women, even though most conditions are preventable or treatable. Treatment of heart disease is easier when it is detected early on, and doctors will often focus on factors like elevated cholesterol and smoking when trying to predict heart disease. It is crucial to consult a doctor if one suspects they are at risk, or if there's presence of any pain in the upper chest, shortness of breath, or fainting, and particularly if the person has his family history of coronary disease. As a complement to medical treatment, it's always recommended to make healthy lifestyle changes, and as we have seen, yoga promotes a healthier lifestyle. So that is where yoga comes in. Oh, so sorry. Those are the heart diseases in the umbrella. So some of the benefits indicate that yoga is helpful when dealing with heart disease because of its effectiveness in reducing stress. The elevated levels of cortisol are known to result in high blood pressure, which can cause the heart to strain and require more oxygen to function. In addition, stress hormones cause the blood to clot more easily, they increase hunger, and they encourage storage of fat around the abdominal area. Yoga is also a useful stress management technique, which is very important when trying to prevent a heart attack, for example. Besides being a great stress and anger management tool, yoga may reduce high blood pressure, ease palpitations, lower cholesterol, and much, much more. Plus, it is a great form of exercise for cardiovascular patients who have been sedentary and are not very strong. And according to the November 2010 issue of the Harvard Heart Letter, anything that works the muscles is good for the heart and blood vessels, and that yoga provides a gentle way to do just that. Next, we have obesity. Obesity is defined by the Mayo Clinic as having an excessive amount of body fat, and by excessive they mean body mass index of 30 or higher. And according to the CDC, or Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 1/3 of adults in the U.S. and approximately 17% of children are obese. When someone is obese, their chances of developing a heart disease, diabetes, depression, or many other conditions increase significantly. Being obese can also affect musculoskeletal fitness because it compromises mobility and it puts strain on the joints. Obesity can be influenced by genetics, hormonal imbalances, but it's mostly a result of taking in more calories than one burns throughout daily activity and exercise. The body then tends to store these excess calories as fat, and accumulation of fat around the midsection in particular can be very dangerous. Obesity is obviously worsened by stress. It is said that high levels of stress change eating patterns and augment the consumption of highly palatable or tasty foods. This can rapidly turn into a vicious cycle in which chronic stress results in elevated levels of cortisol, which leads to more stress-related eating, which in turn causes more stress. So you can see how this pattern can rapidly turn into something terrible. Not to mention, cortisol also facilitates the conversion of calories into fat, particularly in the abdominal area. So you really want to avoid stress if you're trying to lose weight. Right? So even losing just a little bit of weight goes a long way, and yoga can be great for this. The first way is by burning calories on the yoga mat. There are styles of yoga such as Ashtanga yoga, which is also known as power yoga, that are very fast-paced and can make the heart rise to an aerobic range. But there is also, you can also do it by practicing pranayama. Pranayama or dhyana. Breathing techniques in meditation are particularly helpful with dealing with stress, as we have discussed. And because of stress's role in overeating and the formation of fat, yoga's proven ability to fight stress is another aspect of its effectiveness as an aid to weight loss. Finally, yoga promotes self-awareness and can help individuals see themselves more clearly. There was a study in the 1992 New England Journal of Medicine that found that on average, patients overestimated how much they exercised by 51%, and at the same time they underestimated how much they ate by 47%. So yoga was used as a tool to help them be mindful of these habits and demonstrate that participants did not have slow metabolisms like they believed. The problem was that rather that they had a skewed perception of how much they were exercising and how much they were eating. Losing weight and keeping it off can be very challenging, and that is why both doctors and yogis recommend lifestyle changes over dieting. And they recommend exercises for weight loss, like asanas such as sun salutations, which is the image that you can see up on the slide. There's also twists, inversions, back bends, and forward bends. And other yogic ideas are bringing awareness to meals, eating in silence, and thinking positive. People that succeed at losing weight typically don't undermine their success with negative self-talk. And additionally, a self-defeating attitude can easily take on the form of an excuse that can derail people from their healthy path. Finally, I looked into depression. The first thing to note is that it's not the same as being sad. Depression is a mental illness that can cause loss of interest and persistent feelings of sadness. Depression can be triggered by a number of factors. There are multiple symptoms of depression, and their severity varies from person to person. And diagnosing a person with depression is very complicated, but someone who suffers from it will have at least 5 of the listed symptoms for at least 2 weeks. And for some people with depression, the only cure is to take antidepressants, but for others, activities like yoga can be very helpful. Depressed people, like insomniacs, tend to have persistent activation of the fight or flight response and elevated cortisol levels, which are both characteristics of stress. A study done by the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami School of Medicine showed that a 2-month Vinyasa yoga trial led to a decrease in depression by lowering cortisol levels. Other findings suggest that yoga's focus on overall well-being can be crucial in preventing depression because well-being is a good predication of future risk. Timothy McCall, the author of Yoga as Medicine, also believes that another factor that plays a role in depression is posture, which can be corrected through the practice of yoga. Depressed people, he says, tend to have slouched postures that keep their chest sunken in. And he finds that a more open posture that allows the expansion of the chest and lifts the heart and promotes deeper breaths. It also allows the elongation of the thoracic spine, and these shifts in posture can have an effect on mental and psychological states. Yogis also believe that letting go of muscle tension and having a relaxed facial expression can counteract feelings of depression. Facial expression, they say, affects how people respond to one another. Positive facial reactions produce positive reactions. And world-renowned yogi BKS Iyengar has noticed that people with depression hold tension in the outer portion of their eyes. So to address this problem, he suggests that you move the edge of the eye towards the temple and the ears while doing a pose. And another suggestion to relieve depression is to practice poses that reduce stress and restorative poses that provide energy, like Prasarita Padottanasana, which is up on the slide. So, in conclusion, the yoga philosophy certainly encourages a healthy lifestyle, and although most of yoga's benefits are hard to quantify and therefore hard to prove, studies have done on the subject show that time and time again that regular practice of yoga is very beneficial to overall health. Whether the problem is stress, asthma, insomnia, heart disease, obesity, depression, or some other condition, chances are yoga can aid. Yoga brings balance and harmony between the mind and the body. It is safe and inexpensive when practiced at home, and benefits are numerous and tangible. There is no harm in doing yoga, only potential benefits. Questions?
Yes, let's do that.
It was very excellent. I loved it. As a healthcare provider, I wish that this was offered more as a preventative type medicine, as opposed to pretty much it's hidden.
It is. People seem to think that yoga is only for like very flexible, limber people, but it totally is not. You know, there's so many types of yoga that anybody can practice them, you know, and the thing is that the type of yoga that you see at your local yoga studio is the kind that you can monetize on more easily, so it's more prevalent. But really, you don't have to be terribly flexible, you know. Yoga is supposed to adapt to the person, not the person to yoga. And I think a lot of people miss that.
So is this fairly common in hospitals, programs, yoga programs, or?
There has been a growing trend of recommending yoga, and there have been numerous studies, but the thing is that Western medicine is obviously not a fan of recommending anything that they can't quantify and prove. And since yoga's benefits lie mainly on stress, and stress is impossible to measure, basically, it's very subjective, then it's very hard for them to, prove the effects of yoga, But as an individual, me practicing, I immediately notice changes within my mood and, my energy levels and everything when I do yoga, as opposed to when I don't have time for it.
Well, surely you can, I understand you can't prove, but you can show correlation. Strong
And
correlation.
there are a lot of studies that do show them. Like I said, pages like the Mayo Clinic, for most of these diseases, actually list yoga as one of the recommended preventions or solutions for certain diseases.
I just didn't know from the local hospitals if they had yoga programs. that
Teresa
they
might be able to
actually
answer that for us.
I might be able to. Actually, hospitals are recognizing it, particularly Norton Healthcare. Norton Healthcare, we have what is called N Good Health for Norton Healthcare. And what they do is they have a healthy, well-being lifestyle for each of their employees. So we have offerings for our employees. We have a gym at every campus. Each gym offers not only aerobic exercises, but anaerobic exercises. We have monthly lists of classes. We have a weight center that does have not only aerobic, anaerobic, but they are starting to offer yoga classes for beginners, for advanced beginners, and so on and so forth. So it is being recognized. It's just so hidden when you look at everything that you've talked about. And if you look at every single one of those disease processes, every one of them deals in some way, shape, or form with stress.
Which
and
is kind of the
yoga,
reason I
every
picked all
one
of
of them, everything that you correlate the yoga with as far as touching, yoga tends to bring down that stress, bring down all those things, so increasing health and well-being. So it's being recognized, but I just don't think it gets the credit that it deserves. And I don't practice yoga, so you've convinced me.
Well, good.
I'm not flexible.
If I convince one person, then I did my job right.
How long have you been working on Sympathetic, Ms. Reichert?
On and off for about 2 years. When I first took Dr. Manwani's course on yoga as medicine.
Okay, that was my question. Did you interview anyone that actually teaches yoga?
Yeah, well, I've taken yoga, I've done yoga on and off since I was 18 because my aunt, who passed away a couple of years, she used to be a yoga instructor, so I used to go to her class regularly. And then when I moved here and enrolled in the honors program, I realized that there was a course offered on yoga as medicine with Dr. Manwani, and I jumped at the opportunity of taking that. It was a very interesting course.
Aren't you certified in Jiangsu too?
Yeah, but that's aquatic therapy. It's different. I'm into holistic medicine. But yeah, it was a very interesting course where Dr. Manwani basically explained the medical benefits of yoga and then taught us how to put our own personal routine together depending on what we wanted to target. So for example, I have asthma and I suffer from insomnia. So my personal routine involved a lot of the poses that I talked about that help prevent insomnia and that alleviate asthma. So that was my work for that semester. And then last semester I decided to add other conditions. I basically chose them, as Therese noted, because of their correlation with stress. And I had also written a paper on stress for a previous course with Dr. Barnes on samurai sword fighting.
Also honors.
Yeah, also honors, yes. And I wrote about using the practice of kendo to reduce stress. And kendo has a lot of the same factors, meditation and breathing techniques. So I was like, yoga again. So that's how I ended up making it my final project. And this, as you can see, is the culmination of my work.
Obviously, the physical act that you're doing during yoga
are beneficial, but like, do most yoga classes encourage you to think about a certain thing, like mentally concentrate on something specific, and that will help you with insomnia? Concentrate on something specific, or is it more just the bodily action of the yoga?
I find that most yoga classes that I've taken here in the U.S. simply focus on the physical aspect of it. You know, it's just like going to the gym, kind of. And a lot of them, I feel like, are afraid to even delve into the more spiritual or mental parts of it, just because they don't want to feel like they're lecturing people, kind of thing. But that's something that's slightly different in Mexico, for example. Yoga classes there usually end with a meditation session, where they tell you, you know, let go of the stress, think of this, think of that, you know, chant a couple of ohms at the end, that kind of thing. And that's another reason why I decided to do this project, because I feel like those are two aspects of yoga that people tend to forget about. So I figured that by doing my project on it, I could bring awareness to that part. But around here, you would mostly have to read about it yourself. It's not something you're going to get from your local yoga class, I don't think.
How often do you recommend, like, do you think like 5 minutes a day is enough to get all these
Well, they
results,
say that
or
the
Yoga.
the